So, good afternoon, dear media partners, good afternoon. And sorry for this 15 minutes that we lost. I hope as a journalist we will catch up with the time, right? So we are very happy to have you here for this press conference. And we can't thank you enough for your support before the Congress during this week, and we hope we'll get more support from you even after the Congress. So we are honored to be with our panelists, our guests. Let's welcome Bruno Oberle, the Director General from IUCN. Thank you for coming. We are also honored to have Honorable Minister Dr. Jeanne d'Arc Mujawamariya, the Minister of Environment from Rwanda. We are happy to have you here, Minister. And we are very happy to have Kadu Sebunya, the CEO and President of the African Wildlife Foundation. Happy to have you here. These are our media partners. So before we proceed with questions and answers, I would like to have your remarks from each of you. Let's start with Bruno.
Thank you very much, moderator. Dear friends from the press, the inaugural IUCN Africa Protected and Conserved Area Congress has created an unprecedented coalition for protected and conserved areas in Africa. More than 2,400 delegates from over 80 countries participated in person. We have had delegates from almost every African nation. 5,000 more people joined us online. Dozens of IUCN members' organizations were here, from states to NGOs to indigenous peoples' organizations, as were all of our commissions. Over 20 ministers participated, along with 2 former heads of state. But this coalition is not just one of governments. Participants also included representatives of indigenous people and local communities who live and benefit from Africa's protected and conserved areas, as well as directors and rangers of these areas, scientists, donors, and a diverse, energetic group of young people from all over Africa. This was the first ever gathering of such a diverse group of African stakeholders and leaders on the continent taking ownership of Africa's conservation story, putting Africans in the driver's seat to put forward solutions for conservation challenges. The discussion that took place here have reaffirmed some key priorities. The urgency of conserving at least 30% of the continent's land and waters in an effective and equitable way that involves all relevant stakeholders as a key element to address the dual biodiversity and climate crisis. More than 40 countries of Africa already support this goal, as you know. The need to acknowledge, respect, and uphold the rights and custodianship of indigenous people and local communities, and to implement rights-based approaches to conservation while putting an end to injustices in the name of conservation. And finally, the need to scale up innovative funding models for conservation in Africa. This afternoon, delegates will acclaim the Kigali call to action. It will be circulated to you via email. The call for action was open to input from all stakeholder groups and represents a consensus position of Africa's diverse stakeholders on its protected and conserved areas. This means that Africa will be able to speak with one voice in the upcoming UN conferences on nature, such as the CBD COP15 in Montreal and the Climate COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh. Finally, I would like to thank our co-conveners, the African Wildlife Foundation, and the government, and indeed the whole nation of Rwanda, and in particular my friend, the Honorable Minister Jeanne d'Arc Mujama Maria. Murakoze, you have been wonderful host of this historic conference.
Thank you very much, Bruno. Let's hear the remarks from the Minister of Environment.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us at this closing press conference. We are grateful to the media power for being a partner for conservation, and we look forward, as Basil was saying, we look forward to strengthening and expanding our partnership across the continent toward the implementation of actions that will be taken at the end of this conference. It has been a great honor for Rwanda to host the first ever Africa Protected Area Congress. This week, thousands of leaders, experts, community members, and young people have come across the continent and beyond to be part of the most critical conversations about the future of conservation of Africa and in Africa. These are critical conversations because they affect every African. They affect how clean our air, water, and soils are. They affect our ability to manage climate change, which is only getting worse. They affect our ability to draw on our natural resources to improve people's lives, from ecotourism to the production of new medicine. This week, we have recommitted to put people at the heart of our conservation. In doing so, we have laid a solid foundation for conservation to take its rightful place as a top priority at the legal, policy, and investment table. What we need to see now is real change on the ground in the lives of our people. I'm very pleased that the Kigali Call for Action for People and Nature has come to fruition. Now it must be implemented, because this Congress should be a Congress of actions. This means capitalizing to Pan-African Conservation Trust, APAC, which will mobilize resources for the conservation of Africa's protected areas. This means resolving the issues faced by communities in the management of conservation areas. This means putting nature first in everything we do. Before we take questions, I would like to thank the more than 2,400 people who joined us, the African Protected Area Congress, and more than 5,000 who joined virtually. And the themes at IUCN, the African Wildlife Foundation, and the support staff who made the Congress possible, without, of course, forgetting the staff of the Ministry of Environment and our affiliated institution. Without you, this Congress could have not happened. Finally, thank you once again to you, our media partners, for telling one of the most important and riveting stories on the continent, which is the story of conservation. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. CEO Kadu, the floor is yours, and then after we'll be proceeding with questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Minister. Thank you, Excellency. I think you've heard it. We really have had a huge meeting here in Kigali. It's really been exciting that for the first time, Africa met to talk about what really matters for us today and for our future. As African Wildlife Foundation, we are the largest African NGO on this continent. We are committed to build the future for Africa where people and life thrives and wildlife thrives. We cannot do this alone. So partnership is very important. And throughout this week, AWF and the African Protected Directors have been working actively with strategic partners and the APAC patrons that also happen to be AWF trustees. His Excellency Yusuf Mahmoud, former President of Niger. His Excellency Haile Mariam, former Prime Minister of Ethiopia. And His Excellency Festus Mogae, former President of Botswana. These are our trustees and patrons for this conference. Collaboratively, we discussed how best to not only increase the funds that flow onto protected areas and conservation areas in Africa, but also to inform how it is dispersed in an equitable manner that addresses the direct needs of conservation and people. We've been listening and we are walking the talk. Firmed up our relationship and partners with fellow NGOs, development partners and organizations, local communities, the youth, and the private sector. Most important, that we would like to play a larger role because we know that we cannot be successful in conservation without everybody chipping in. It needs a collective effort. For example, AWF this past week, we've signed an MOU with a global youth biodiversity network in Africa, here in Kigali. This is a youth network that negotiates at international conventions. We would like to see the African voices of these young people. Another MOU we signed with African Civil Societies, Biodiversity Alliance. This is also another powerful 360 membership organization across the continent that we need to work with so closely and represents the voices of communities and several multilateral environment agreements we've done. This week also, we've signed a letter of intent with Orango Investment Corporation, based here in Kigali. And we hope we'll play this a pan-African investment firm. And we think that it is going to be critical, an investment that we shall see in rural areas where we found protected areas. Of course, we've had opportunities to hear voices of people who are rarely heard. These African voices of indigenous people, youth, African civil societies. We must take their messages seriously if we are going to succeed. Our role as civil societies, as an NGO, is very clear. We cannot substitute African governments. Their role, their responsibilities, and action are very important in conservation. They are the largest landlords. We need to be respectful, but supportive, and hold them accountable. African governments, we call upon them to prioritize the protection of environment and conservation and to increase their national budget allocations, as conservation and development cannot exist in isolation. Financing conservation, the targeted meeting this week, we've had very nice conversation about this. And the outcome has been a Pan-African Conservation Trust recommendation. That has been a proof point that we are focused on creating sustainable solutions for Africa and Africa's friends, the donor community, are participating. I will end with an extremely grateful message to the government of Rwanda, the President of Rwanda, His Excellency Paul Kagame, the Minister of Environment, Dr. Jean Mujawa Maria, and the co-conveners, IUCN, for the wonderful partnership we've had these past 3 years in organizing this conference. But this is an event. Going forward, we shall need a strong partnership with the media to help us carry this message and mobilize the continent to the level we would like to have. So I thank you all.
Thank you very much, Kadu. Now we are going to proceed with your questions. I know you have a lot of content to produce from here, but each media house will have one question. I forgot to introduce myself because thinking you know me, but my name is Basil Uimana. I work for the Ministry of Environment. I'm in charge of communications and outreach. So we have 2 microphones here, one on the other side, the other one on the other. Let's start from here. The gentleman in the, okay.
Bon, je vous remercie de me donner la parole. Vous avez parlé en anglais, mais permettez aussi de poser ma question en français comme c'était dans la conférence. Bon, mon nom c'est André Gakwaya. Je travaille pour l'agence rwandaise d'information, Rwanda News Agency. Et ma question c'est le premier congrès panafricain
S'il te
qui se
plaît,
tient.
est-ce que vous pouvez attendre un peu pour qu'on puisse avoir des traducteurs?
I think you can do that.
Je peux y aller?
Il n'y a pas de traducteur pour le moment, mais
Ceux qui peuvent me répondre en français, ils peuvent me répondre, pas de problème. On peut continuer.
d'abord tu posais la question à qui?
Bon, à Madame la ministre ou à un des participants, if they can speak in French, it is good. Yes. Et ceci a été le tout premier congrès africain sur la conservation. Bien sûr qu'avant, il y avait des activités sur la conservation et des forums. Alors, qu'est-ce que ce premier congrès panafricain apporte de particulier, de plus de valeur ajoutée à ceux qui étaient impliqués dans la conservation? Je vous remercie.
Merci. We'll have a round of 5 questions and we answer, then we proceed to the other round. So the next question, Johnson on the other side, the man in the front, yes.
Thank you so much. My name is Johnson Kanamugire. I'm a Rwandan journalist. My question is to do with, I'm actually interested in details regarding the plans to operationalize the Africa Trust Fund. As APAC comes to an end, what exactly came out? Because there was a ministerial meeting and negotiations around having it capitalized and the models and what each and every state will have to do. Actually, what is it that came out of the discussions, and maybe going forward, what should we expect? Thank you.
Yes. There is another man in the front, yes. Please introduce yourself and tell the media you are working for.
Okay, my name is Fidel Simba. I work for Al Jazeera TV. Mine is a follow-up to Johnson's question. Given that Africa has some of the poorest countries in the world, most countries are struggling with, poverty. And in terms of budget, they don't have the money to even provide enough for people. In the course of discussion during talking about the trust fund, there was this mention that, okay, they're going to lobby, Congress is going to lobby governments to put in a certain percentage of their GDP or their budget. So how is that possible, given that most of these countries are struggling to curb poverty? So how you want the government to forget people who are poor and start contributing to a fund just to protect the environment?
The other man, yes. Voice of America, yes. I think it's Senna.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, my name is Senna. I'm with Voice of America. So I want to ask the minister a question mainly on the Nyandungu Eco Park. And I understand there's an educational side of it. I'm asking the question with respect to policy and how the educational bit of it and then the formation of the park itself fits into the broader policy and the expansion of conservation for Rwanda in general. Thank you.
One last question. Jean-Claude from RBA.
Thank you very much. My name is Jean-Claude Mutuyez from RBA. For the interest of local language, Honorable Minister, twagira ngo tumenye inyungu yo kwakira inama nka Afrika by'umwihariko birumvikana n'u Rwanda. Ese wenda hari niba twabyita nka opportunities zaba zarabonetsemo zishobora gufasha u Rwanda by'umwihariko kuba gukomeza gutera intambwe kurengera ibidukikije. Murakoze.
Thank you. I think we'll start with the Honourable Minister, and then the question of Johnson and Fidel will be answered by both Kadu and Bruno. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Je demanderai que vous me permettez de répondre d'abord à la question qui est posée dans notre langue maternelle. Iyi nama mu by'ukuri icya mbere na mbere ni uko u Rwanda rwishimiye kuba rwaratoranijwe kugira ngo rwakire iyi nama mpuzamahanga yo kubungabunga urusobe rw'ibinyabuzima bwa mbere muri Afurika. Si yo nama ya mbere yaba iganira ku kubungabunga urusobe rw'ibinyabuzima mu Rwanda, ariko noneho kuba ari kongere mpuzamahanga yahuje abantu 2,000 hafi 400 baje mu Rwanda, ndetse n'ibindi 5,000 bayikurikiranye ku buryo bw'iyakure. Ni igitego kuri twebwe abanyarwanda, cyerekanye yuko hari ibyo twakoze isi yishimiye. Ni igitego kandi nanone ku Rwanda kubera yuko bigaragaza yuko ibyo turi gukora hari ahandi byakorwa bakatwigiraho, ariko natwe byadufashije kwigira ku bandi ibyo abandi bakoze, kuko si twe twenyine dukora neza, hari n'abandi bakora neza. Ikindi kandi ni uko twahujije imbaraga nk'Abanyafurika kugira ngo dushobore kunganirana, kuko ibibazo by'urusobe rw'ibinyabuzima byo muri Afurika biri muri Afurika, ariko twemera yuko n'ibisubizo byo kubibungabunga biri muri Afurika. Hari imbaraga twifitemo dushobora gukoresha kugira ngo tubungabunge urwo rusobe rw'ibinyabuzima, bityo umuntu abane neza n'urusobe rw'ibinyabuzima, kandi twabonye ko bishoboka. Mu Rwanda twabonye ko bishoboka, ni nayo mpamvu guhanahana amakuru no kungurana ibitekerezo n'abandi byari ngombwa yuko duhura. Iyi kongere ntibe mu bindi bihugu byateye imbere gusa, kandi Afurika ariyo isa nkaho ifasha ibindi bihugu mu kubungabunga urusobe rw'ibinyabuzima. Ngira ngo murabizi ko urusobe rw'ibinyabuzima rwo muri Afurika ari rwo runini cyane ugereranyije n'ururi ku yindi migabane y'isi. Twakuyemo iki rero? Twakuyemo amasomo atandukanye y'uko twakongera kuvugurura uburyo twakoraga, cyangwa se tugakomeza muri wa murongo twarimo kuko hari abawukunze. Ikindi kandi ni uko twakuyemo inshuti nyinshi zizadufasha mu gukomeza ya politike y'igihugu cyacu y'uko tubungabunga urusobe rw'ibinyabuzima ariko tukabana neza narwo nk'abantu, kuko byagaragaye kuva na kera y'uko urwo rusobe rw'ibinyabuzima rwangizwa n'ibikorwa bya muntu, ariko kandi n'ibikorwa bya muntu nibyo bizarubungabunga, bityo tukagira u Rwanda twifuza na Afurika twifuza. Murakoze. Ku kibazo, je pense que j'ai répondu à ta question dans notre langue maternelle. En fait, je disais que la tenue de ce congrès sur le sol rwandais est un succès, non seulement pour le Rwanda, mais pour l'Afrique en général. On a partagé avec nos frères et sœurs ce qu'on a pu faire au Rwanda, et on a appris des autres ce qu'ils ont fait dans leur pays pour qu'on puisse vraiment protéger notre biodiversité, pour qu'on puisse avoir une synergie pour nos aires protégées. Et nous pensons vraiment que ce congrès nous a même apporté des amis de l'environnement, des amis de la conservation et de la biodiversité. Et de ce congrès, nous aurons Call for Action de Kigali. Donc, c'est le moment d'agir. On va des discours et des discussions aux actions. Donc, c'est le moment vraiment d'agir pour la biodiversité. C'est le moment d'encore réfléchir que nous avons une Afrique. On n'a pas une deuxième Afrique. On n'a qu'une seule Afrique. On n'a qu'une seule planète qu'on doit protéger, et pour que l'être humain puisse vivre en harmonie avec la biodiversité, avec la nature. Donc, c'est un congrès qui nous a apporté beaucoup et qui a ouvert les yeux à nos frères et sœurs qu'on peut faire mieux que le Rwanda. Ce que le Rwanda a déjà fait, nos frères et sœurs peuvent faire mieux, et on va suivre et on va copier les uns des autres, parce que l'Afrique nous appartient et c'est nous qui devons protéger notre Afrique, parce qu'on n'a qu'une seule Afrique. Je vous remercie.
Honourable Minister, there was another question around Nyandungu, so you can...
Around Nyandungu, we have opened Nyandungu as another protected area in the city of Kigali, because people in the city of Kigali, people who are living in the city of Kigali, or people who are visiting the city of Kigali, need a clean air, need also to live in harmony with nature. So this Nyandungu was a degraded ecosystem which we had to rehabilitate to show the Rwandans living in Kigali and the visitors living in Kigali that we can live in harmony with nature. So the Nyandungu wetland was rehabilitated, and the government, with its development partners, put their effort together to make sure that Nyandungu becomes a place where everybody wants to go, to have a clean air, to be in touch and in connection with the biodiversity. So now Nyandungu is open, and seeing the good progress made from a degraded wetland into a beautiful ecotouristic site, we are carrying out some of the feasibility studies to make sure that even from Nyandungu, we are going to Gikondo, which is a wetland in the city of Kigali, because we have seen that it is possible to rehabilitate our wetland, to live in harmony with wetland. And Nyandungu has given a message to us all, that a wetland is not a wasteland. And of course, when we will be rehabilitating Gikondo from Rwampara to Itekisirwa, we would like to see the Kigali we want. We would like to see the livelihood of our people in Kigali is improved. And of course, the people living near Nyandungu are benefiting more than people who have never been in Nyandungu, because they are having a blissful air from Nyandungu. And the songs of birds that are in Nyandungu now are the ones waking up people living near Nyandungu. And that creates the connection, the bond between biodiversity and the human being. That is what I can answer about Nyandungu. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And other questions were about APAC. So let me start with Bruno. Yes, Kadu, yes.
Yes, the question on what's next.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, this is a recommendation coming out of this conference. The conference is asking Africa to create this vehicle to financially support protected areas sustainably. Moving forward, there's a standing committee that has been doing work in creating what this can look like. But I think the most work is going to be the conversation we're going to have with Africa coming out of Kigali. We have to get our leaders, African leaders, understand what this is and what the purpose for it. We need to get the African citizens understand why this is important. And then a structure will be created, and we'll talk to our friends of Africa that's already bearing the cost of conservation. 70% of majority of conservation of the continent is really donor-driven, and that's what we were trying to address too. So we need to talk to friends of Africa on how this looks like and how this will support what we all believe is necessary. So it's too early to tell you how the structure looks, how this is going to be run. I can't go ahead of Africa. This was created this week, and we are moving forward to do it. But one thing I could tell you, we are going to do it because it's absolutely, absolutely necessary. That's the commitment we are living with.
Yeah, from that, there is a Peter from The Guardian. He's asking, are there any specific pledges from any African country to the trust fund? Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. Maybe Kadu was very well placed to answer to that question, but what I can give as a message is that His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Rwanda, His Excellency Paul Kagame has already committed to contribute to that trust fund from yesterday. So the soonest possible, you will hear how much Rwanda is contributing to the trust fund. Maybe the trust fund. I thank you.
Yeah, I can add on that, and we are very grateful to the government of Rwanda and His Excellency. He's the first one to really 100% commit that he and the government of Rwanda is going to put in money. But we are having already a couple of discussions with other African leaders and institutions. Indicatively, there is interest in contributing to this fund. So there's a positive movement towards that, but we haven't had firm meetings like the minister had with the president here to be able to confirm that. But I'm very, very, very excited and optimistic, basing on the conversations the former president I just mentioned earlier, and myself having with several African leaders.
There was a question about why government are investing while people are poor. So Bruno can answer on the value of investment in nature.
Yeah, it was a very clear formulation in the question. Why should government invest in just to protect the environment? Well, what we eat is nature. The air we breathe is produced by nature. The water we drink is purified by nature. If nature would have a final crisis, we human would simply disappear. So this is a final reason behind, because we want to survive. We have to support the platform on which we are living. I can put it in more economical terms and probably less dramatic. It is well known that 50% of the global GDP is rooted in one way or the other to nature. It is known that in sub-Saharan Africa, up to 10% of the GDP is specifically rooted not only to nature, but specifically to protected areas. In some regions, like for example, around the Kruger Park, 60% of the GDP is derived from the protected areas. The return on investment in this investment in protected areas are around 1 to 100. It is the best investment you can make. So why should government invest in nature? Because they want to develop the country, because they want to find a better future for their citizens.
And I can add on that when we are investing in biodiversity, we are not excluding people. As we are saying that everything we do should be people-centered actions. We have to create green jobs. By creating green jobs, we are protecting the biodiversity. And for example, when we will be rehabilitating all these 5 wetlands in the city of Kigali, some of those wetlands will be agriculture-based activities. Agriculture-based activities will be happening in those wetlands. And if we don't put people at the heart of every biodiversity program and project, we will not succeed. So investing in biodiversity conservation does not mean excluding people. It is involving people into conservation, into creation of jobs, into having a clean air. And by the way, I can give you an example. A hospital that is built in an unclean environment, patients tend to take longer to get well. And a hospital that is situated in a forest, patients tend to be well faster than the opposite. So that biodiversity connection, that ecosystem connection to hospitals is something that we have to keep developing for the health of our people. That's why we are saying that put people at the heart, at the center of conservation. Thank you.
Yeah, I just worry. This is a very, very important question because this is what we hear a lot across the continent. And this question really has puzzled many Africans, especially Black Africans, when it comes to why conservation is important, as if there is a choice or people in conservation like animals more than people. It's contrary. Science tells us that really those two have to go together. And there are no options. However much you develop without conservation, you're not going to be successful. You develop conservationists, if they do conservation without development, they are also not going to be successful. I think what we really mean ultimately is the good life. That's what development is. But you can't achieve that by just educating people. You can't achieve that by just enriching people. Even if you are so rich and your air is poor and you can't get fresh water, and you are not really rich. So the idea that you got to fight poverty and then have a good life is a false choice.
Thank you very much. As you know, we have the closing right now. So let me thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for the good job you are doing. Please, media, you are our partners and continue to be our partners, our friends of conservation. So thank you very much. Yes, there is before we end this session, I would like to give the floor to the minister. She has a message to deliver.
Yes, I thank the media for partnering with us on the road to conservation. I just want to give message to our media houses. So one, Rwanda was proud to host this APAC in Kigali. Second, the real work begins today. We have to go to action. So the document that will come out, the Kigali Call for Action, we have to put our effort together to be able to implement it. And it is possible for people and nature to live together. And thirdly, we must put people at the center of conservation if really we have to achieve the goals we have set for ourselves, including media. So I call on all nations and partners to support the African Conservation Trust so we can invest the resources into conservation across the continent by creating green jobs for our people and improving health for our people and changing the way we do business with nature. We have to connect ourselves to the nature. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bruno Oberle, the Director General of IUCN. Thank you very much. Thank you, Honorable Minister Dr. Jeanne d'Arc Mujawamariya, the Minister of Environment of Rwanda. Thank you very much. And thank you, Kadu Sebunya, the CEO and President of Africa Wildlife Foundation. Thank you for coming. And thank you, journalists. And please, let's move from here to the auditorium for the closing session. Thank you very much.